Most of us carry questions we never say out loud. Questions about loss, identity, contradictions, and what it means to be human. This podcast is a place to sit with these questions without rushing towards answers. I'm Aya Karuni, and this is You and Aya. This episode is sponsored by Carbon Coffee Lounge on 33rd and A in Lincoln, Nebraska. All right, so today's episode is with Jim Walker. He's one of my really good friends. I think you already know this name because he was a special guest on season 2. Got a lot of good feedback, and that's actually one of the reasons that I'm kind of doing these open conversations, because I figured, why not? But Jim is a mathematician, and he's always thinking about ways to make his life better. And I think why I really wanted him today is to talk about meditation. He's always talking about meditation, how he implements it in his own life, what he's learned, why it surfaced. And I really think, given this crazy busy world that we all deal with, meditation is being slowly taken away from us and replaced by let's do yoga, or let's, wear certain things because we meditate. But it's actually something way deeper than that. It's a lifestyle. It's an outlet to really look inward. And that's why Jim is with me today, to tell us about his experience with meditation and how it made his life better. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. To be continued. Okay, today we have Jim Walker with us. We're going to go straight to it. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for agreeing to be part of this show. It means a lot, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Let's go ahead and dive right in. This is the most intimate question that I think needs to be said. Who is Jim Walker?
Who is Jim Walker? I would look at that from two directions, really. The four-dimensional space-time. People, for example, see the physical body, the ego, the personality, the name, Jim Walker, and they know it to a certain degree. Different people know it differently, and hopefully it's agreeable. But from my perspective, from my meditation and achieving that awareness of being level, where I can step away from the thoughts, the feelings, and emotions and not identify with them, just the awareness of being, Jim Walker actually looks a lot the same, but I have a more favorable opinion of him then. The people in the world, they see a guy that grew up in a rural Nebraska environment, graduated from Overton High School in 1971, and is currently retired. I have a degree in mathematics from the university and spent 35 years as an HVAC engineer. And that's pretty much Jim Walker.
Thank you, Jim. Great introduction to yourself. And as you can see, this episode is going to be pretty interesting, because just asking someone who they are can tell so much about them. I mean, you started with the 4-dimension. I mean, I'm so excited to see how this is going to go, because you think so mathematically. Every time I'm talking to you, a math equation just appears. And I don't know how we got there, but it always happens. And that's something that I love about your mind and how you process things. But today, we want to focus about meditation, because you also mentioned meditation as you presented who you are. So take us on a journey. How did meditation become such a huge part of your life?
I was in a situation back in the 1970s where there were aspects of my life I did not like. And I realized I need to change some things about who Jim Walker is. And there are some young fellows from California that were working at the manufacturing place where I was working then as a welder. And they started me reading Alan Watts books. And I really liked them. They started to open my eyes. Alan Watts talked a lot about the Tao Te Ching. And I finally got a copy of that. And that was the one that pointed me in the direction and got me going. And from there, it's just been a steady trip ever since. Meditation was kind of an on and off thing for me for many years. But in 2014, I was in an accident and I was in a wheelchair for 6 months, so I had a lot of time to meditate. And ever since then, it's been a core value. I would put it that way. And that's where I'm at today, with the meditation.
Meditation these days has this association with I do yoga, I'm a yogi, I go to yoga classes.
Yeah.
But the way you explained meditation was more of you wanted to seek it out. There was a part of Jim Walker that you didn't like, something you wanted to change. And you decided that you want to read about it and implement it in your life. So do you want to tell us how, because I know at one point you said you went into the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
If people have listened to season 2, we were featured in that season as a special guest. Do you want to tell me about that experience and how that also led you into seeing yourself within a different lens that connects you to meditation?
Well, there was an experience of being electrocuted and being in what, to paraphrase Carlos Castaneda, a separate reality. There was this universal awareness of being. Universal. Everything everywhere was known. And it had no name. It was the awareness that has no name. And didn't last very long because they revived me. But that's when I got started on the books and that. And I have to know what this is. And that was the starting point. And I still remember that feeling. And I still get there sometimes in my meditation once in a while, to the universal awareness of being. And it's really cool.
Okay, it's far out.
Yeah.
I bet. Okay, so let's kind of dissect that incident, because you said in your meditation now you want to get to that point.
Yes.
So that point when you experienced it, do you want to elaborate? How would you physically describe it? Like, were you like staring from above, looking at Jim? What was these feelings?
There was an awareness of looking everywhere simultaneously. Not just focusing my eyes on one point and looking. It would be awareness, to me, our individual awareness even is non-local. In other words, it's not fixated within the brain. It's not created within the brain. The brain is within the awareness, our conscious awareness of being. And so it's not fixed in the universe is fixed in it. And I try to imagine, what is it like to be an awareness like that? That image that I saw. And I would try to imagine that. And meditation actually can take me there. And it's a pretty bizarre place to be. I really love it. And it gives me a peace of mind. Yeah. Because we live in a society that has fear programmed into it. And people live with levels of stress, high or low, all day. There's always some level of stress. And the stress tends to, at times, initiate the flight or fight concept, where we shut down the immune system, shut down cellular repair, and focus on survival, like we're being chased by a tiger or something. There's no tiger.
Only in our heads.
Yeah. And I set those aside. I still experience those things in my daily life. But in meditation, I set those aside, and there's no more fear. There's no more stress. It's like the story of the little boy that was banging his head against the wall. And they asked him, "Why are you banging your head against the wall?" "Because it feels so good when I stop."
Oh,
And now I know what that means.
okay.
I can remember in 2014 when I was recuperating, I would lay in bed at one point and think, "Hey, this is so cool right now because nothing hurts." I know what the boy meant.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Now, I know we've talked about meditation many times. We've talked about the social media influence, that busy time, programming, and everything, and how the outlet kind of just, unfortunately, these days, if you kind of look about it, we want to decompress by watching things. Like we've become so accustomed to having something to look at all the time, and we think in our heads that we're decompressing, which is actually even worse. We're like adding to it. That's another topic. But that's why we're trying, I think, to like go towards meditation. But for some reason, again, we're afraid of sitting with oneself. How do you do it? How do you truly get the courage and I want to sit right now and I'm not going to touch any devices and I want to do this, go inwards. What is the process like?
Well, I would say just looking at the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, seeing them and being aware of them. When I was a child on the farm, one thing I used to do is look at what I am thinking about. Not, "Hey, this is really weird, but it's cool." And so I got an early start, But it's not an easy thing to do, to go inside and see that awareness. The thing is, when I get there, it's such a beautiful experience. Now that I've been there enough times, I want to go there. Mm-hmm. But if they don't know what they're going to find, it's like the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, "If you stare long enough into the abyss will stare back." And that's what people are afraid of.
I think that's one
stillness.
big part is
They'll see themselves for who they really are.
so do you think then in that term, the way you're putting it, does meditation reveal who we are? Would you put it in those terms?
Well, that's a good way to describe it, yeah.
And
Because you start to find that awareness of being. The I am concept. It's not like I am this or I am that or I am something else. It's just I am. Mm-hmm. And you find that awareness, our core conscious awareness of our own existence. That's the core element, really.
so again, busy life, the stresses that you just mentioned earlier, you have a job, you have a family, you have pets, I think internally we all really want that meditation. We all want, we want to go on vacation. Yeah. That's why we do it. We want a time off. We want a mental health day that we just kind of like leave work and whatnot. But how do we get there? For you, it was, I decided I want to change who Jim is. I seeked out books, but what could be the turning point for most people, you think, in that terms?
Well, when people are really busy, they may not have an hour to sit down and devote to it. You don't need an hour. If you can just stop, like when you're ready to partake of a meal, for example, just stop and for just 2 or 3 minutes and do slow, deep breathing. And think of something you're grateful for. The HeartMath Institute refers to this as their quick coherence method, heart-brain coherence. That's another story. But that is highly recommended as well. And the slow, deep breathing, see, when we're agitated about things, our breathing tends to be rapid and shallow. But if you look at someone while they're asleep, how are they breathing? Slow, deep breaths, because they are really relaxed. They're so relaxed, they fell asleep.
Good for them.
But the slow, deep breathing tells the body, hey, it's okay. Things are cool. We've got it handled. Don't worry about it. Just take it easy for a few minutes, just 2 or 3 minutes, and think of something you're grateful for. Well, I'm grateful I have the food on the table that I'm getting ready to eat. I'm grateful that there's a table to put the food on in a house or an apartment or wherever it is I live. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my friends, my family, people that care about me. There's a lot to be grateful. This day, beautiful day out there today. The sun is shining. Well, last time I looked, the sky was clear. Beautiful day. I'm grateful for that day.
So I'm guessing being grateful, gratitude is a huge part of
the
meditation.
The HeartMath
maybe?
Institute, in their quick coherence method, gratitude is critical. The feeling of gratitude and appreciation is critical to maintaining the heart-brain coherence. Their research has shown there's a neural network in the heart that's like a small brain. And our emotions seem to be centered there, our feeling of emotions. When when you're really excited about something, you feel such great joy. That really is, we say, I feel it in my heart. And that used to be just an empty metaphor, but no, it's real. It's actually real. There's a neural network there that feels our emotions. There's a magnetic field they can measure it in the laboratory that extends from the heart several feet. And these emotions program that magnetic field. If you've ever walked into a room, and as soon as you walk in, you can detect the negative environment.
The energy's off. Something feels
yes, something's not right. You don't know what it is.
It's people's energy.
Yeah, because these magnetic fields can merge, and they probably communicate emotions, not words, not text, not language, not rational thoughts, but emotions, the feelings of emotions. And I think, I'm speculating, but I think we actually probably communicate a lot more that way than we realize. For example, if someone says something to me and I detect a certain negative attitude there, maybe they didn't even intend it. Maybe they were just stating an observation out of the blue. But I detect that negativeness in there. I respond in kind, and I make a negative comment. And they're saying, well, where did that come from? That negative. And they respond in kind. And eventually it escalates into a shouting match, and nobody knows how it got started.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Back in the dark night of the soul, I was susceptible to that a lot. And that was something I wanted to change. In your season 1 podcast, chapter 10, you talked about self-awareness, stepping aside from it. Don't do the knee-jerk response. Just step aside and look at it first and analyze what responses could be made.
So that's
a lifesaver.
Yes, but how hard is it for people to do that?
It's extremely
catching
hard.
yourself, like this reaction. How could you speak to me like this? I'm annoyed this car is in front of me. I'm late to this appointment. I need my coffee, etc. To like catch yourself in that moment and like really just ponder on it. Why do we not do that? Why is it so hard for us as humans to just pause?
It seems like the reaction happens before we have a chance to look at it. But I think meditation, getting back to meditation again,
please,
but being familiar with that state of the awareness of being actually helps me in a situation like that. I remember a situation at work. This is toward the end of my tenure there at Gateway Mall when I was an engineer out there. And we didn't have an operations director, so I was telling the mall manager, I said, this problem had arisen in the central plant. I did the troubleshooting. I got it fixed. It's back and it's running. Now, there might have been a few problems momentarily up in the mall, but if they call, tell them, hey, we've got it under control. It's okay now. Good news, right?
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, he was mad at somebody for some reason, and he just went off the rail.
With you.
Yeah.
On you.
And at that point, I used what you talked about in chapter 10. I didn't do the knee-jerk response. I didn't allow that shouting match to erupt. I kept a rational voice, but in the back of my mind, there was this little voice that said, I need to leave as soon as possible. I need to find a graceful exit.
Yeah.
And finally I said, okay, I got to get back to the central plant and check the equipment, make sure that's still working. And I left.
Yes.
And I never went back to see him again.
You're like, I'm not going to deal with you now. I'm going to walk away.
If he needs to know, I'll send him an email.
Yeah. And that's what you did until retirement?
Well, then they did get an operations director after that. And then I dealt with him.
Okay.
For his benefit, I was always able to maintain that perspective, though, where I didn't do the knee-jerk response. I was able to analyze it and stay in control. And I think meditation was a big part of that for me over the years.
So, you know how I believe that sometimes incidents in your life as big as, losing loved ones or being electrocuted or ending a relationship for many years, heartbreak, that's like a very, very common thing. That's when people want to change. There's always this pivotal point.
Well, that was your case, no? And it was my case as well.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm thinking, does it have to be like that? Why does something so dramatic, like such as what I just mentioned, has to happen for us to change? Why don't we want to do the change while we have it as now, like taking that time?
Well, the ego tends to like things the way they already are. And it tends to be afraid of change.
The mask.
Even if what we are isn't all that great, at least we know what it is. Again, going into the unknown. The change requires staring into the abyss and seeing if it looks back. We don't know where we're going to go or what we're going to find. But with the right frame of mind, it can be a fantastic adventure. The wrong frame of mind, it could be a nightmare.
Yeah. So I know today you wanted to focus, because we said meditation is the main thing. And you said that you wanted to kind of reveal what meditation is, but also you want to focus on how to maintain it, or what was the main core of meditation today? For
me, meditation, the idea is you stop the thoughts in your head, that voice that's always talking in your head, like Michael Singer talked about in The Untethered Soul, that book you recommended to me. Excellent book. He said, yeah, and you're probably thinking, oh, no, there's no voice talking in my head. Okay, that's the voice I'm talking about.
That's the one.
And I still have that voice there.
We all
and
do.
I silenced the voice for a while. It's so peaceful and calm. Like, hey, this is cool. I silenced the voice. Oh, wait a minute. That was it. It's back.
It's back.
But that when you silence the voice, when you silence the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions, you find that awareness of being that's like a pure, crystal clear pond of water, or the perfect diamond, crystal clear, whatever. It's so peaceful, so calm, so reflective, and that's who we really are.
And you've been there.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling you just described. And that's the one you want to go back to.
In meditation, to find that awareness. Now, how do you do it?
Yeah.
There are quite a number of different theories on that. One of the debates is, should you use what's called a mantra, something you recite while you're meditating? Mm-hmm. Now, I do that. Now, some have said it works, and some have said no. It's the voice in your head. Mm. And both sides have a valid argument. But I found in my experience using a mantram, it displaces the voice in my head. And since it's the same thing over and over and over again, I tend to kind of set it aside. Yeah, it's there. But it's taken the place of the voice of its head, but I don't have to pay attention to it. And I can get back to that awareness. And I think that's what a mantram is supposed to be.
Okay.
But people don't always do that. They use it to talk to themselves again.
What other methods? You said there was a couple.
There's a walking meditation they call mindfulness. And when I go on my long walks, I like to practice this, where you become aware of the present moment, right now. What is in this moment? Like right now, you and I are sitting here doing a podcast. Right now, we're having a fascinating conversation.
Far out.
This is the present moment. I'm not thinking about the past, and I'm not contemplating the future. Because so oftentimes, when we get into the present moment, we think about how we got here or where we're going. Well, we're not at those points. You know, if I've got a problem I have to deal with, I can derive my various methods of dealing with it. Once I've done that, I can put them on the shelf. I'm done. But people tend to ponder them over and over and over. They're not changing them. They're just saying, yeah, this is what I'll do.
So would that be defined as overthinking?
Yes.
Okay. So we have
and
a
that
lot
can
of
be stressful.
we have a lot of overthinkers. I'm
I've
tending
seen
to
that
be
in
one of
myself.
them recently.
Yeah.
Given political issues, religious issues, personal issues.
Oh, that's understandable.
And it's extremely hard. And I'm one of billions that are dealing with that kind of stuff at the moment. And I'm trying so hard to and I think of you sometimes like, okay, a thought came in, I'm going to look at it, say hello, and then I'm going to either put it on the shelf or be just like, okay, I'm done with you. But sometimes, again, it's like catching yourself to not react to that bad situation, that negative situation you're in. Yeah. I feel like it's almost the same thing when it comes to overthinking of
I think you're right.
Dealing with it, in terms of
true.
why do I insist to engage with it as much? Yeah. Is it the comfort
That's
of this?
That's an excellent observation.
Yeah, so
that's an excellent observation.
So how can we?
It's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Again, through meditation, I get to a point where eventually sometimes I can catch myself overthinking. Sometimes I don't. And I just do it, But I found more and more. Now, in my case, I have to admit, retiring made a big difference for me in that.
I wanted to ask about that.
I worked at a job where there would be days where I'm sitting at my desk and I'm doing some mathematics to come up with an equation I need to calculate something. There'd be other days where I'm sitting at the computer and I'm programming the code in to run a chiller in this way or a boiler in this way based on that equation. Mm-hmm. And there will be other days where I'm wearing a Class 3 safety harness and a hard hat hanging on the side of a boiler, taking something off or putting something on. Now, it wasn't boring. And there would be some days where I've got a mop and a bucket and I'm cleaning the floor. Mm-hmm. There would be days like that too, taking out the trash, things like that. But there's a certain level of stress, when I'm inside an electrical panel, I always used to carry what they call a hot stick. It's a little device that tells you if the line is hot or not. Now, I know I just went over and shut off the disconnect, and I put a hasp on it and put my lockout on it with my tag, so they know who locked it out. But I'll still test the circuit when I get back there, just in case. Because there have been one or two rare occasions where I forgot the lockout. But I put the hot stick in there, and it lit up. Okay, I forgot to lock it out. And those things put a certain degree of stress on the job.
Did they ever Like after work, when you left work, did they follow you home?
No, actually,
What-
I was able to leave them home. I remember back in the 1970s when I used to work on construction, I was putting iron up on a place in Elm Creek. And I would go to work in the mornings. And this was new to me in those days. And thinking, oh, man, I'm crazy for doing this. And I'd be nervous. And I'd get up there, and after about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm okay for the rest of the day. I can go down and eat my lunch and climb back up there, that sort of thing. But then I'm driving home at night, and I'm thinking, man, I must be crazy. What am I doing? Now, over time, that faded away, too. By the time I was working for West Brothers Construction, I used to sit up on an I-beam and eat my dinner, The people at Fillmore County Hospital thought I was crazy when we were building the addition on there, But the overthinking, see, if I would take that home with me at night, and I probably did in my early days, it doesn't accomplish anything to take it with you and keep thinking about it, if you're not gaining anything. If you don't get a point, well, hey, here's a new solution. If you don't reach that's something like that,
How much time overthinking really takes from our lives? Like if you come home with those things from work or a stressful situation and you're sitting there and discussing them, I mean, you could have went on a walk, you could have read a book, you could have, drew something, crafted, binded a book or whatever, but yet so what's the balance? What's this line of I want to discuss these things to get them off my chest, but also know that once I do, let's just put it up on that shelf again and let it sit so I can move on with my life. Like what advice would you be able to give to a person like myself, for example?
Well, I have learned from meditation that if something's bugging me like that, look at it and feel it.
So
how does it make me feel? Okay, there's the emotion. Feel that emotion. You have to actually feel it. It doesn't feel good. Not at all. The stress and the fear and that, feel it. And know what it feels, and look at it, and this is not an easy thing, look at it from an objective viewpoint. What is it? I've done this with pain. Well, let me see. What does pain really feel like? No judgment, no preconceived notions. Feel the pain. What does it feel like? And I could actually make the edge dissipate.
So give me an example. Like, give me one time where you're like, I'm going to look into the pain. And
Well,
I'm gonna
back in
see,
1996, this was a good example. I had 3 fractures in my left pelvic bone.
Oy.
And, there was a lot of pain involved, but I could lay in bed and just feel it. And 2014, when I was in the wheelchair, that sort of thing. But the pelvic bone fractures had a lot of pain to them. And you have to feel the pain, but look at it not from, oh, I'm hurting and it hurts so bad. Drop that idea. Look at it. What does it really feel like? Like I've never known pain before, and this is the first time. What does it feel like? Objectively. And see, when you do that, you're starting to look at it from that observer perspective, the awareness that has no name. And there's a great benefit to that. Now, I might not get rid of the pain entirely, but it would take the edge off of it. And I know it's still there, but it's not knocking on the door so loud now.
Okay.
Things like that. I mean, it actually did work for me.
From experience, from past injuries
But it
and
took
whatnot.
some practice.
So, because you said earlier, you gave this example of if you stare into the abyss, it will kind of stare back at you. Can we implement that into situations like this?
That's a good metaphor.
I'm going to stare my
That's
pain.
a good metaphor, yes.
Right? Yeah. And
Yes,
yeah,
stare into the abyss and see what it actually looks like. If this thought about tomorrow's meeting is just nagging you and nagging you and nagging you, Feel the emotion, the stress, the fear, whatever's there. Feel it, experience it,
Okay.
and know what it's like from an objective perspective, and then let it go.
How long does that normally take? How long am I feeling it? But I feel
It
like,
can vary.
you know,
It can
I'm
vary.
busy. I gotta go use social
Yeah.
media, you know. But yeah, does that make sense? Like what,
Yeah.
like this kind of process? Do you sit with it? Let's say I do have that meeting tomorrow and I'm dreading it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stare it into the eyes, within myself, and for 30 minutes, and then kind of let it go.
Yeah.
Or if this is an ongoing pain or process or whatever it is, do I do it 30 minutes and for X amount of weeks, for example?
Yeah.
What is your experience with that kind of stuff for things that are longer than just a
Well, when you
meeting?
experience the emotion, it seems to reach a point on its own if it's going to be let go. I can't force it. I can't say, okay, now you have to go away. You know, I can't do that. I have to feel it and then let it go away on its own. And the objective viewpoint will help bring that along. If I have preconceived ideas of what pain is, or what worry is, or what fear is, those are going to negatively affect my result. If I just feel it from an objective viewpoint and see what it really feels like to be afraid, to be stressed, to be nervous. Well, before this podcast, you know, I'll admit I was pretty nervous.
Me too.
But I kept telling myself, in a meditative state, we know each other. We know what we're going to talk about. And I thought, oh, it's going to go fine. And then I get to a point where I know that.
Yeah.
Now, that's probably the only time I'll quote the Bible. But in the New Testament, Jesus said, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, nothing shall be impossible unto you. I think this is what he was talking about. You get to that point in your emotional state where you know you're going to be okay.
So
That's the faith as a grain of mustard seed.
we
And that isn't easy either.
I bet.
Yeah.
It's hard. That's why you're here today. Cause again, going back into like, you know, my first season is I gave all these examples of what's really standing in our way to fulfill legacies. We got self-awareness, we got dissatisfaction, dependency, and all of those things. But really the most thing is, how do we implement the things that we learn? Once you acknowledge something, once you know it, like why is it so difficult to implement those? And it seems from this conversation,
Yeah.
maybe fear is like a really
That's what it
huge
is.
part of it.
See, it's something we're going to change. It's something unknown. And the ego doesn't like any change. It likes to keep things the way they are. It loves the status quo. Even if the status quo is causing us a lot of stress, it
Yeah.
doesn't want to change the status quo.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
is how things are now. Let's just keep it this way.
It's easier.
If you go changing things, you don't know what's going to happen.
So do you think the people that refuse that kind of change are simply afraid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And
And I know how it feels. I have been there. I have felt that fear.
yeah.
I've stared into the abyss.
You understand fear now because you
Yeah.
stared at it long enough.
Yeah.
So I know at one point you bind books, you love, it's one of your hobbies. And I believe it's called the Duda Book of Zen. Your nickname is
Okay,
Duda.
yeah.
And
That's my favorite one, I have to admit.
so you've written a lot of things and I have it. And the majority of the theme, it was the silence, the silence, the silence. But underneath the silence, like within these little tiny, like paragraphs, it's like the silence is loud, this silence, but then it's like these, it's like two opposite. It's like there's silence, but then it's so loud. So like, how loud is your silence when you're sitting with it? And what does it teach you?
Well, I'll make one quote from the Duda Book of Zen. The silent presence, awareness without a name, seeking no answers. So when I'm there, the silence, it's like 100%.
Okay.
It's
loud.
Yeah. But that's good at that point. Because if the silence is 100%, it means there's no fear, there's no stress, there's no worry, there's no hatred, there's no anger, there's no bigotry. I've always theorized, this is a little different point, that there are two fundamental emotions, love and fear. When I'm so excited to be working on a new project, a new book I'm making, or learning a new piece of music, and it's so much fun, that's based on love. Hatred, anger, jealousy, bigotry, all of these things are based on fear. If a person hates someone, it's because somewhere in his mind there's something he's afraid of. If a person is angry, it's because there's something he's afraid of and he's trying to avoid it with anger. And I think they can all be narrowed down to those two, really, for the most part.
I can agree.
And that's
to
how
that.
I tend to look at it.
So it's really funny because something just came to my mind. So you said that with meditation, with silence, with going inwards, we kind of achieve love and peace and all of those beautiful emotions, relaxations. And it's what we want to seek. Like the end point is that. And yet we will do anything to not reach it.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's a bit ironic in terms of
it is.
how we want things and how we go
we want
about
things
them?
to stay the way they are, but we want them to change.
Like, do
you
we just
can't have
wanna
both.
press the button?
Yeah, they don't want to stare into the abyss.
I think I feel like whoever listens to this episode is going to have to listen to it more than once because we've had this conversation many times, and honestly, sometimes you say things and I'm like, what?
Well, we put a
Question
lot
marks,
into it too,
because at the very beginning of this episode, I'm like trying to like get it back in the loop here. The way you explain meditation, the way you explain the observer, but it's not really you, it's within you. It's so backwards. It's like everything that we know that could be, the way you're explaining it, to me, I'm receiving it as it's all backwards. Like I never thought about it like this before.
Well, because most people tend to identify the awareness sees the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, and it just goes right into them and becomes them. Now, I am this thought, I am this feeling, I am this emotion. This is who I am. No, it isn't. It's something that happens to you. And if you step back and look at the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions, you start to become aware of the awareness. Oh, there's a good one.
Be aware of the awareness.
Yeah.
Should be a t-shirt.
And so what we generally think of who we are in our day-to-day lives is a different perspective than looking at it from the perspective of awareness. And to me, that's who we really are. This awareness is non-local. And I would say, and again, I'm speculating, but I would say that this awareness is, well, again, from the Duda Book of Zen.
But that you wrote.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is infinite. Eternal is never born and can never end.
So, okay, so you're a mathematician slash like engineer and you like equations. If you had to draw this awareness, or if you had to like truly explain it in a physical form for me to understand, because like you lose me at times when you try to explain this, because I'm following you and then at one point you lose me because it's so much bigger than when I normally understand. Like this awareness of like, is it like a nucleus that's kind of like the center that we're all connected to? Like what exactly?
Well, I suppose if I had to draw it on a piece of paper, it would be blank.
Oh boy.
That the awareness. Okay, this goes back to the 1970s. I was on an acid trip, and I was sitting in a room
Did
with
you
some
say
people.
acid trip? Okay.
And we were all tripping. And I had this image of the room and all of reality being like inside of a round ball. And there's one guy outside the ball. And he's running around, and he sticks his head in and his arms, his legs in here, and he's this person. And then he gets out and he comes over here, and he's this person. And he moves around, and he moves around. And I've never forgotten that. But the way I would look at it is there's a universal awareness, conscious awareness of being. Some would call it God. You know, that I saw back in 1975 at the time of the electrocution. And it's, I don't know if it separates us. I don't like to use the word separate because I don't see us being separate from it, but it creates individual awareness, being, you know, these awarenesses. And they're the ones that go inside the ball then and become that person's.
Yeah.
But they're all from that one universal field. And that's what unites us all, where we are all one, as they would say in Zen.
Yeah.
And in meditation, you can reach that point.
Connecting.
And it's infinite. It's everywhere and it's nowhere. It's everything and it's nothing.
So let's. So when you say all that stuff, I know at one point you would always tell me like, I woke up this morning and I felt this like cloud or fog of negative energy.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember every time I would see you, for a while at least, when politically speaking things were bad or maybe in a different headspace? But so how can we relate like everything that you just talked about, like from meditation to fear to going inwards and like putting it all on a bigger spectrum into society and bring it to light? Could this be one of the reasons we're so disconnected? Could this be one of the reasons we're missing this unity of just loving each other in general? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
There are a couple of things here. There's been research done in the past with large groups of people meditating at the same time in a given city. And they've had measurable drops in the crime rates, the vehicle accident rates, hospital admissions during that time. The magnetic field, around the heart, when if they can all come together emotionally, can form one large field that can have an impact. The Heart Math Institute has what they're working on, a global coherence project. This, what they call heart-brain coherence, is the slow, deep breathing, the gratitude, and being aware of the emotions in that magnetic field. And they try to get people to focus on a collective field.
That's what I meant.
That would have this positive benefit. And I think it's within the realm of the possible.
But do you see what I mean? Like, what if that could be one of the main reasons why we're so like put into
disjointed.
boxes and
Yeah.
like
Separated.
and it's like this category and this little stereotype and you belong here and there, and it's like and again, that's how I get very political, like, oh, everyone, they play with us the way that they want and all of that. And I feel like the government and like people in like high powers, they like, I feel like all these like psychological study tests that they did, even like the fear, like that's one thing that they play on us all the time, to fear each other and to separate us. And then instead of like wanting to understand what's happening, we seek these, the social medias, entertainment and all of that to just kind of like get away from it. Because what if we're just afraid to find the truth, like within those meditation? The truth of, but then are we helpless? How would we go about it then? Again, the implementation, if we do face that truth, but that's just
it's
me.
a difficult thing to
talking
do.
out loud. I'm trying to
But the fear in the society is programmed in it because it makes people easier to control.
Yeah.
And from the society perspective, it's a very mechanical thing. And control is the key desire.
Yep. Control.
And in order to control everything, you need to keep everything the way it is. This guy's getting radical. He wants to change something. Oh, knock him down, man.
Crazy person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something to consider. I feel like that's my perspective and opinion on it. But you know how they say once you are being observed, you become someone completely different. And we've discussed it before. Apparently that's a really like international theory about the observer effect.
Yeah.
Do you remember how when you're like looking at certain particles, they just suddenly act differently? And then you look away.
The observing.
So tell me more about that. That's just,
Well,
and how it ties into meditation.
Erwin Schrödinger had a thought experience. He didn't actually do this.
Okay.
But he had thought experience. If you put a cat in a box and there's a vial in there with a poisonous gas in it, and you've got a radioactive substance here that every now and then emits a beta particle, and you have a detector here. And if the detector picks up a beta particle, a little hammer's going to come down and break that vial, and the cat will die. Okay, if you leave for an hour, there's a certain probability that in that hour, that beta particle will be emitted, and the cat will be dead. And there's a certain probability that it won't. Both states exist. It's called the superposition principle in quantum mechanics, until you actually come in and look in the box. Then it collapses to either the cat's alive or the cat is dead. Now they didn't really do that.
Yeah.
It was just a thought experience he had. But the observer that has that kind of control, I think, is that awareness of being. Not the ego, not the personality.
Okay.
Because really, when we observe, it's the awareness that it's observing. It might do it from the perspective of the personality or the perspective of the ego, but still it's the awareness that there is doing the observing. Awareness of our own being. I know I am here. I know I exist. I am. And through meditation, then, we can look at that and experience that awareness. And when we experience it by itself, we have set aside the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the fears, the worries, the stress, all of that. And we are left with a very peaceful, blissful experience of being.
So, sometimes they say you're a soul in a body, you're not a body in a soul, or something like that. And now so we're not a body, now we're a soul. But now I feel like we're not even a soul, we're an awareness. from what you're.
There could be there could be a
are they
analogy.
Yeah, it's
there
like
might
the
be-
awareness is way stronger than anything else.
There's an old saying: we are a spiritual being having a four-dimensional space-time experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the scientists still try to peg consciousness as somewhere in the brain, but they can't find it. It's not created in the brain. They come up with theories. Well, sometimes it's just so complex, it has to evolve. What do you base that on? Oh, it's just a guess. Not good enough. The brain is contained within this conscious field.
Yeah.
The universe is contained within the conscious field. This universal awareness of being that has no name.
The one with no name.
Yeah. And it creates all of reality.
And we shouldn't give it a name.
Maybe you can if you want. Some people call it God. I knew a girl years ago that called it Big Ernie.
If it works for her. But Jim, these are amazing insights. And I hope that whoever listens to this episode listens to it more than once, because I know once we actually officially air this episode, I want to listen to it more.
I do too.
Because you said so many things about meditation and awareness, and it's not just like oh, this is, oh, everyone is doing meditation. It's so much deeper than that. And if you really want to do it, you just have to do it and just know the truth about it. But we're kind of wrapping up.
Okay.
And I want to thank you so much for being with me again.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And I want to ask you a final question. It's actually from you, but is there anything else that you want to add? Anything that you can leave the listeners with? A question, maybe a thought?
Well, I would make one comment that came to mind when you were talking about how meditation, if you simply want to relax a little bit, meditation works fine for that. It works fine. You don't have to stare into the abyss to gain benefits from meditation. But again, it's how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? To paraphrase Lewis Carroll. And as deep as you want to go. I have chosen to see how far I can go.
Okay.
Step out on that ledge as far as I can get to the edge and look down into the abyss.
You want to open the curtain to the edge of the world.
Yeah.
And then close it back in. Yeah, that's a good advice as well, just to kind of, you don't have
But it can work on a surface level just fine. It works. And it's worth doing if that's all a person thinks they need. It's worth doing. And I would recommend that.
I will take your recommendation. I trust it from a good source.
Well, I know you have experimented with meditation. What have been some of your experiences?
A bit, but not really. I feel like I used to, I know this is going to sound weird, but I used to meditate during workouts.
Yeah.
Where I would not think about anything.
Yeah.
And the only thing right there is to enjoy the moment, listen to music.
That's the key.
And just let go. That was my only space where I didn't think about my family, work, the future, the past. It was literally just that for me. And and now I'm kind of doing some paintings and whatnot, and that's another way.
You get lost in the paintings.
Yeah, you don't have to think about anything else.
Where the painting is happening, but it's as if you're not even there. It's just the painting itself is happening.
And writing. How do I forget writing? Writing is has been my main outlet for all of that. Season 2, the poems.
Well, you're an excellent writer.
Yeah. So it's all in the making. But writing has been my biggest outlet for meditation in my own way. Jim Walker, thank you again for being my guest. This has been amazing. I can't wait to see the final
I'm looking forward
edits.
to it too.
And thank you so much.
And thank you for
your expertise and sharing
it.
everything. This podcast is produced by Main Floor Media. Created, executive produced, and hosted by Aya Karuni. Creative producer Hank Ball. Co-produced Thais Murias Jarchin. Set designer and production assistant Frida Thailander. Hairstyling for me, Anastasia Jennings. Plants and floral elements provided by Grateful Growers and Carbon Coffee Lounge. Additional support provided by Dr. Ron Breal, Jim Walker, Haifa Sleiman, and Widad Sleiman. With gratitude to our title sponsor, Carbon Coffee Lounge. Thank you so much for listening to this episode with Jim Walker. Meditation now has a whole other meaning, so I hope you can implement that in your life. Next episode is with Ramon Adams. If you want positivity in your life, if you want to change the way you talk to yourself, you have to watch this episode. He's so cool. This dude is all about positive affirmation. Stay tuned. Let's find out what he has to say about that.